let's talk about Shoot360 and about the technology. But before we start and talk about what Shoot360 is, I want to hear your background. Like, what brought you to even beginning this concept?
Yeah, so I was a long-time high school and college basketball coach, a couple decades of it, and I retired out of coaching the first time in 2003. And so then I was working with my own kids kind of over a period of time. And what I found was it was just really difficult in the market to find gym access and then really good training that was at an affordable level for what I would call the average family. And then ultimately, what kind of pushed me over was my oldest son was in our family room or bonus room watching TV one day, and he had his whole or playing video games, and he had his whole team in there. And it was a beautiful day outside, and I said, "Hey guys, why don't you go out and play on our court?" And they go, "Nah, we rather play video games." And, kind of growing up without video games, I was like, "What are you guys talking about?" And so I kind of gave up, and I walked out and I looked at my wife and I said, "If I could build a gym like a video game, I'd have it made." And so that just resonated with me. And I knew about some of the emerging technologies that were in the market that they were primarily using for testing. And I just kind of over a couple of weeks came up with the idea on how to use it for training and gamify it so it would be sticky and kids would want to play it. Because I really went around that theme of trying to make it like an immersive video game so that it'd be real sticky and they'd want to be a part of it.
Wow. I can't believe nobody did this before you.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah. How many things happen like that though,
Right.
right? Like right in front of us, and then we kind
Yeah.
of go, "Oh, it clicks," and
Somebody has to be first.
yeah, yeah,
The,
exactly.
the
Yeah,
brilliance of this is that you gamified actually playing basketball. But let's talk about the wife, because we've all experienced this when we have this brilliant idea and our significant other or a spouse is supportive, but sometimes they say we're a bit crazy. So let's talk
yeah,
about what was
yeah.
your wife's reaction when you said, I think I want to create a business out of this idea?
Yeah, well, I think first of all, she knows I come up with a lot of ideas that I never really execute on, and so she was
Oh,
thinking that, yeah, at first, okay, this is just another idea, and then the second part was the a little bit of the background was I was in real estate development and had another company, and when the real estate crash happened in 2008, I had 100 residential lots, and um it hit us really, really hard, and we climbed our way out. We managed to survive it. And then in 2011, right when we were kind of starting to come out of it, I have this idea to go take another risk. And she's like, "You got to be kidding." And so, but I think, Frank, we're very mission driven. And I think ultimately what happened is, when I was coaching kids, at the high school college level, I could impact 15 to 30 of them a year. And we kind of had this vision that if this worked, we could potentially positively impact hundreds, thousands, and maybe even millions at some point. So that was kind of the driving force behind it.
wow. Let's talk about the technology of Shoot360. If you could share with the audience how this works and what does it do and how does it do it?
Yeah. So we use the technology that we use is machine vision, and we don't take credit for developing the technology. That belonged to Noah Basketball, and a good friend and partner of ours is John Carter, who's the CEO, and Alan Marty, who actually invented it, the shooting technology. And they had been using it with high schools, starting to use it with the NBA and college teams. And so we took it, and we had an idea. We partnered with them to kind of bring it to the consumer at a very wide level, and gamify it like we talked about. So the technology essentially is machine vision. I'll do just a little bit of science here with you because I think it's important and relative to this conversation. It turns out that the perfect shot is a 45-degree arc as it enters the basket. It's 11 inches behind the front of the rim, and it's straight on. So we call it 45, 11, and 0. The cool part about it is is that's backed by science, math, and now we have over 300 million shots in our facilities to back that data up. And NOAA has, X amount, probably the same amount. So between the two of us, there's probably 600 million shots. And that's growing exponentially as we add facilities. But what we learned in the process was that there's a range inside what we call the perfect or ideal shot, which arc is 43 to 47. Depth is a 8 to 14 inches behind the front of the rim, and left 3 inches or right 3 inches. If you can put all three of those elements in the ranges at the same time, you'll shoot 98% or better. And so we have on a 75-inch screen above the hoop what we call a splash meter that's feeding where they're at on each one of those elements when they shoot so they can adjust in real time. People call it muscle memory, but what it really is myelin that runs those tendons that run. And when you repeat a task the same over and over, that tendon gets thicker and it can repeat that task easier and without the brain telling it exactly what to do. So if you can imagine, maybe what used to take 10 years to become an elite shooter, we're taking that and making it down to where 2 or 3 years I start to enter kind of that elite area, because shooting's about consistency, right? So that's why all the NBA guys are using it, because it's refining what they're doing and accelerating. But now you take a young kid and think about the possibilities as they train with it.
Yeah.
And then we use it in passing and ball handling. And passing, we're able to refine speed and velocity, accuracy, reaction time, decision making. So we're able to coach all those things guided by technology in a really fun environment. And then, Frank, how we put this all together, which is the most fun to me, is when we first started, we did training and then we added content. But then what really lifted us to the next level is we created competition, because all kids want to compete. So you could be in New York and I can be in Portland and our friend can be in Dallas and another friend up in Minneapolis, and we can all play each other in real time. And so we create this community of people, and we can take people that are kids that are 9 years old, and we can take people who are 70, and they get to keep playing the game in different ways. Some are training for the highest levels where they're peaking in their athletic lives. And some of them are looking for ways to, how do I continue to play that's not hard on my body, but a ton of fun. And so we just have this big mix of opportunity ahead of us.
You sure do. And you've taken franchising by storm. So you guys started franchising in 2019, but you already have 33 locations open, if that's right. And you're going to have 45 by year end?
Yes. Yeah. So we started the last week of 2019. And so we put the first one in Kirkland, Washington with Rodney Stuckey, a former NBA guy. And then we opened another one in end of January. And then we were opening our third one with the Warriors on March 11th. And that's when they shut down Alameda County because of COVID. And so we, obviously devastating. We had 4 corporate locations at the time. And so we just kind of plowed through it and got 16 in during COVID. And now we've kind of, we were fighting supply chain, as you all know,
Mm-hmm.
and we were fighting, we couldn't get into jurisdictions to get permitting, and real estate was getting tough because we're in a kind of in industrial areas where we put our locations, and that real estate just filled up during COVID. So we had a lot of headwinds, but we've kind of broken through and really starting to fly at this point.
Wow. And again, this is not just taking franchise by storm, but the NBA as well, right? So 28 out of the 30 NBA teams use the shooting technology?
Yeah, they use a form of the shooting technology. Now a lot of them are looking at the splash meter. NOAA really runs that division. And so we use the NBA is important to us because of the credibility behind it, right? But not so much in our wheelhouse as far as the business side.
Now, what about the facilities? So in my background with my company, of course, we rented facilities, gyms, schools, churches, wherever, but you're actually opening up a Shoot360 facility. And I think I heard you say kind of like an industrial complex kind of
Yeah, light industrial
Industrial.
typically, or some retail areas too.
And what size?
Yeah.
What's the typical size of a Shoot360 facility?
Yeah, around 10 to 12,000 feet. They range somewhere from 5 to 23,000, I think is our largest standalone facility. We can also act like a Starbucks going into a Safeway or a Kroger's, because we can go in there if there's an existing facility that's like a multi-use sports facility or a basketball facility with a lot of courts, and we'll go in and put a Shoot360 that's autonomous but is complementary to the existing business.
Wow. Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fiume, or Emerging Franchise Group LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation, obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its host do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.